When tech entrepreneur Evan Hale stepped up to that podium to accept his award, he had no idea his entire world was about to shatter with a single glance across the room. The joke he made about mopping up messes drew laughter from the crowd until he saw her standing by the exit, wearing a janitor's uniform and holding a toddler with his exact same piercing blue eyes. 3 years earlier, he had walked away from Nia Carter without a word, chasing success in another city while she faced an impossible choice alone. Now, as their eyes met in that packed auditorium, the successful businessman who thought he had everything realized he had lost the most precious thing of all. What happened next would either destroy his carefully crafted reputation or teach him what true success really means. The cameras were rolling, the crowd was watching, and Evan's past was about to collide with his present in the most devastating way possible. If you want to see how this explosive confrontation unfolds, hit subscribe and tell me what city you're watching from, because this story of second chances and shocking revelations is just getting started. The spotlights felt hot against Evan Hale's face as he stood behind the podium. The community center auditorium buzzed with polite applause. City council members nodded from the front row. Local business owners smiled and lifted their wine glasses. "Thank you so much for this honor," Evan said into the microphone. His voice carried that smooth confidence that had helped him land 3 major tech contracts this year. At 30, he was the youngest entrepreneur to receive the Downtown Revitalization Award. He glanced at his notes, then decided to go off script. "You know, building a business is a lot like cleaning up messes. Some days you're mopping up problems, other days you're sweeping away the competition." Scattered chuckles rippled through the crowd. Evan felt pleased with himself. "The key is knowing which mess needs the most attention first," he continued with a grin. "And trust me, I've gotten pretty good at mopping up after myself." More laughter now. Someone in the back called out, "That's our Evan." That's when he saw her. Near the side exit, a woman in a grey janitor's uniform pushed a cleaning cart. She moved with quiet purpose, collecting empty cups from the tables. On her hip sat a small boy with curly hair and pale blue eyes. Those eyes, Evan's words died in his throat. The boy looked exactly like the photos of himself as a toddler that sat on his mother's mantel. Same wide forehead, same stubborn chin, same startling blue eyes in a face that was otherwise pure beauty. Smooth brown skin, perfect small nose, serious expression. The woman turned toward the stage. Even in the dim lighting, Evan recognized that face instantly. Nia Carter, the quiet girl from his college janitorial crew. The one who used to share her coffee with him during those long night shifts 3 years ago. The one who had made him laugh when he was stressed about exams. The one he had left behind without a word when his father's business partner offered him that internship in Seattle. Nia's eyes met his across the crowded room. She didn't look surprised to see him. She just looked tired. The music from the ceremony speakers seemed too loud now. The applause sounded muffled and far away. Evan gripped the edge of the podium. He started, then stopped. The little boy, Micah. Evan somehow knew his name would be Micah, shifted on Nia's hip and looked directly at him. Those blue eyes held no recognition, no curiosity, just the innocent stare of a 2-year-old who wanted his dinner. "Excuse me," Nia said quietly. Her voice didn't carry far, but in the sudden quiet of Evan's pause, several people heard her. She moved toward the exit, her cartwheels squeaking softly. Evan stepped down from the stage. His award sat forgotten on the podium. Several people called his name, but he barely heard them. By the time he reached the side door, Nia had disappeared into the back corridor. The fluorescent lights in the hallway buzzed like angry insects. Evan found himself standing between supply closets and service doors, his dress shoes loud on the concrete floor. The sounds of the ceremony, clinking glasses, conversation, someone adjusting the microphone, felt like they came from another world. A woman about Nia's age emerged from a utility room with several trash bags. She had protective braids and wore the same grey uniform. Her name tag read, Tasha. She looked at Evan like she was measuring him for a coffin. "You lost?" Tasha asked. "I'm looking for Nia. She's working. You should go back to your party." Evan heard the cartwheels before he saw her. Nia appeared around the corner, moving slowly. Micah was no longer on her hip. He walked beside the cart now, one small hand holding onto the side rail. "Nia." Evan's voice came out rougher than he meant it to. She stopped but didn't look at him. "Tasha, can you take Micah to the break room? There's crackers in my bag. Tasha moved forward immediately. Come on, baby. Let's go see if there's juice, too. Micah looked up at Evan with those impossible blue eyes, then followed Tasha without question. His little sneakers squeaked on the floor. When they were gone, Nia finally looked at Evan directly. Well, she said, that was some speech. Nia, I didn't know. I had no idea you worked here, I swear. Didn't know I existed, you mean? Her voice stayed level, professional. Or did you just forget? No, I never forgot. I tried to call when I got back from Seattle, but your number was disconnected. I went by your old apartment, but I moved. Nia's hand stayed steady on the cart handle. Pregnant women need more space. The words hit him like cold water. Is Micah your son? Yes. Evan felt the hallway tilt slightly. He leaned against the wall. Why didn't you try to find me? I did. Nia's tone didn't change. I called your old number, sent emails to your college address. I even looked up your dad's business, but the receptionist said you were traveling for an indefinite period. I should have. You should have left a forwarding number. Nia adjusted something on her cart, but you didn't. So I handled it, alone, with Tasha, and my aunt, and good neighbors. Nia met his eyes again. Not everyone runs when things get complicated. Evan. The criticism stung because it was accurate. I want to make this right. Right? Nia almost smiled, but not in a kind way. There's no right here. There's just what happens next. Then let's talk about that, please. Not tonight. I have 3 more hours on this shift, and Micah needs his routine. Evan felt desperate suddenly. Tomorrow then. Coffee. Anywhere you want. I don't meet men for coffee anymore. Nia started pushing the cart again. If you're serious about this, I clean here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights, 5 to 11. I'll be here Friday at 5. We'll see. She moved past him toward the main corridor. Evan wanted to follow, but something in her posture warned him not to. The auditorium looked different now. Most of the guests had moved to the reception area in the community center's main lobby. Folding chairs sat in crooked rows. The stage looked smaller without the spotlights. Evan walked down the center aisle, trying to process what had just happened. Micah, his son, 2 years old, which meant, he did the math quickly, that last week before he left for Seattle, when he and Nia had finally admitted they were more than work friends. When they had spent those long spring nights talking about dreams and futures and whether Evan would stay in town after graduation, before his father called with news of the internship opportunity, before Evan convinced himself that leaving immediately was the smart career move, before he told himself that a summer fling wasn't worth changing his plans for, a small object on the floor caught his eye. A rubber dinosaur, bright green with friendly cartoon features. Evan picked it up. Yours? He turned. A man in a polo shirt and khakis stood nearby with a clipboard. His name tag read, David Ortiz, venue manager. It belongs to the little boy who was here, Evan said. Micah, he drops that thing everywhere. David studied Evan's face. You're the award winner. Hell of a speech. Evan felt heat climb his neck. I owe some people an apology. Yeah, you do. David didn't try to make it sound nicer than it was. Nia's good people. Works hard, never complains, always on time. Kids well-behaved too. The judgment in David's voice was clear but not cruel, just factual. Nia appeared at the far end of the auditorium. She moved efficiently, checking under chairs for forgotten items. Micah held onto her uniform pocket, the dinosaur forgotten in his tiredness. Evan walked over slowly. When he got close enough, he knelt down to Micah's height and held out the toy. I think this is yours. Micah looked at the dinosaur, then at Evan, then took the toy without speaking. His fingers were small and sticky with whatever he'd been eating for dinner. Thank you, Nia said quietly. Evan stayed kneeling. Nia, if you're willing to talk, I mean really talk about this, I'll be here Friday, 5 o'clock. And if I'm not willing, then I'll respect that. But I hope you'll give me a chance to do better than I did before. Nia was quiet for a long moment. Micah leaned against her leg, clearly fighting sleep. If we do this, she said finally, Micah comes first. Before your feelings, before my feelings, before everything else. His routine, his safety, his normal life. Of course. And no cameras, no social media, no using this as some kind of good guy publicity stunt. I wouldn't. You wouldn't mean to, Nia corrected. But things like this have a way of becoming stories people tell. I won't have my son turned into your redemption arc. Evan felt the truth of that hit home. You're right. No cameras. Friday at 5 then. We'll see if you show up. She lifted Micah to her hip and moved toward the exit. Evan stayed kneeling on the auditorium floor until they were gone. The parking lot lights cast long shadows between the cars. Evan had intended to go straight home, but found himself sitting in his sedan with the engine off, trying to make sense of the last hour. His phone buzzed. Text from his PR consultant. Jake, great speech tonight. Already getting calls from the paper. Want to set up some follow-up interviews? Evan deleted the message without responding. Another buzz. This one from his mother. How did the ceremony go, honey? Sorry, I couldn't make it. Book club ran late. Evan stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back. Went fine. Talk tomorrow. It wasn't a lie exactly. The ceremony had gone fine right up until the moment his entire world shifted. Through his windshield, he could see the community center's side entrance. A woman in a grey uniform pushed through the door. Tasha, he remembered. She held Micah while Nia locked up behind them. Evan's first instinct was to get out of the car, to offer them a ride, to try to help somehow. But Nia had been clear about boundaries, and honestly, he had no idea what to say anyway. He watched them walk to the bus stop at the corner. Micah had his head on Tasha's shoulder, the green dinosaur clutched in his small fist. Nia stood close to them, checking the bus schedule on her phone. Evan started his car and pulled slowly out of the parking lot. As he passed the bus stop, he slowed down. Nia glanced up from her phone and saw him. For just a moment, their eyes met through the passenger window. Then Evan accelerated and drove away, leaving them under the streetlight. The next day dragged. Evan cancelled 2 business meetings and spent most of the afternoon staring at his computer screen, pretending to review contracts. His small office felt smaller than usual. The walls were covered with framed articles about his business, photos from networking events, his college degree. None of it seemed to matter much right now. At 4:30, he gave up on work entirely. He changed out of his suit and into jeans and a plain t-shirt. Then he drove to the community center. The parking lot was mostly empty. A few kids played basketball on the outdoor court. Someone was setting up chairs in the main lobby for what looked like an evening meeting. Evan found David Ortiz in the maintenance office, updating a scheduling board. "You're early," David said without turning around. "I was hoping I could help with something before Nia gets here." David looked at him then. "Help with what?" "Whatever needs doing. Chairs, cleaning, setup. I have work gloves in my car. This some kind of community service thing? Court-ordered apology? No, I want to do better. Starting now." David studied Evan's face for a long moment. Then he nodded toward a storage room. "Folding chairs need to be moved to the main hall. Tables too. Group meeting tonight." For the next hour, Evan moved chairs and tables. He swept the main hall floor and wiped down surfaces. David worked alongside him, not talking much but pointing out what needed attention. The work felt good, simple and useful in a way that his usual business dealings weren't. His back ached by the time they finished, and his t-shirt was damp with sweat. "Not bad for a desk job," David said as they locked up the storage room. "I used to do construction summers during college, before I got the office internships." "Yeah? What changed?" Evan thought about it. "I guess I decided that working with my hands wasn't professional enough. Lot of good people make their living with their hands. I know that now." David checked his watch. "Nia'll be here in 10 minutes. You want some advice?" "Please." She's not bitter. Bitter people don't work as hard as she does, don't raise kids as good as hers. But she's careful, been hurt before, so she watches for signs that someone's going to leave again. "I'm not leaving." Easy to say, harder to prove. David looked toward the front entrance. "Show up when you say you will. Do what you promise. Keep your word even when it's inconvenient. That's how you prove things to someone like Nia." Through the glass doors, Evan could see a figure approaching. Nia, in her grey uniform, walked steadily toward the building. She carried a small backpack and held Micah's hand. The little boy moved slowly on his short legs, stopping occasionally to examine something on the ground. "Remember," David said quietly, "she's at work. This is her job, not a social visit." Evan nodded and moved toward the main hall, giving Nia space to come in and get settled. At exactly 5 o'clock, Evan found Nia in the community center's small break room. She sat at a plastic table, sharing apple slices with Micah while reading something on her phone. A thermos of coffee sat open beside her. "Hi," Evan said from the doorway. Nia looked up. You came. I said I would. People say lots of things, but her tone wasn't unkind, just matter of fact. Evan moved carefully into the room. Is it okay if I sit? Free country. He took the chair across from her, leaving plenty of space. Micah looked at him with those familiar blue eyes, then went back to eating apple slices with serious concentration. I want to apologize, Evan began. Not just for last night, but for leaving the way I did 3 years ago. Okay, I was selfish and scared. I convinced myself that leaving was about career opportunities, but really I just didn't know how to handle feeling that close to someone. Nia's expression didn't change. You done? No. I want to know about him, about Micah. I want to know what I missed. Everything. Nia's voice stayed steady. First steps, first words, first fever, first tooth. Every diaper change and middle-of-the-night feeding. Every pediatrician appointment and daycare drop-off. Each word landed like a small blow. Evan deserved it. But, Nia continued, I'm not interested in making you feel guilty. What's done is done. The question is what happens next. I want to be part of his life, and yours, if you'll let me. Mine? Nia almost smiled. Evan, you don't even know me anymore. We had a few weeks together 3 years ago. That doesn't make us family. She was right, of course. But looking at Micah, the way he sorted his apple slices by size, the way he hummed quietly to himself, Evan felt something shift in his chest. This was his son. However complicated the situation, however much repair work lay ahead, this child was his responsibility. Then let's start simple, Evan said. I'd like to get to know both of you again, whatever that looks like. Nia was quiet for a moment. Micah finished his apple and climbed down from his chair to explore the break room. He moved with the confident curiosity of a secure child. There would need to be rules, Nia said finally. Whatever you want. First, we do a paternity test. Not because I doubt it, but because we need it official. Of course. Second, any time we spend together happens on my schedule. I work 3 nights a week. I take classes Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and Micah has routines that don't change for anyone. Understood. Third, no gifts, no money, no trying to buy your way into his good graces. Evan started to object, then stopped. Okay. And fourth, Nia met his eyes directly. If you're going to be in his life, you're in it all the way. Not just the fun stuff. Not just when it's convenient. Real fatherhood is showing up for fevers and tantrums and boring Tuesday afternoons. If you can't commit to that, tell me now. Micah had found a small bucket of crayons on a shelf and was examining each one carefully. He seemed completely absorbed in his task, but Evan noticed that he stayed within easy reach of his mother. I can commit to that, Evan said. Nia nodded slowly. We'll start with an hour on Saturday. Public place. I stay the whole time. See how he does with you. That sounds perfect. The playground at Riverside Park. 10 in the morning. I'll be there. Micah brought a red crayon to his mother, holding it up proudly. Red, he said clearly. Good job, baby. Can you find a blue one? As Micah toddled back to the crayon bucket, Nia looked at Evan again. Just so we're clear, she said quietly, this isn't about giving you a second chance. This is about giving Micah a father. Those are very different things. I understand. Good. Nia checked her watch. I need to start my shift. David probably has a list for me. She stood and started packing up the apple slices. Micah abandoned the crayons and moved back to her side. Nia, Evan said as she hoisted her backpack. Yeah? Thank you. For this chance. Don't thank me yet. Thank me in 6 months if you're still showing up. She lifted Micah to her hip and headed for the door. As they left, Evan heard Micah say something that sounded like dinosaur, and Nia respond with gentle laughter. Evan sat alone in the break room for another minute, listening to the sound of their voices fade down the hallway. Through the window, the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. Saturday morning felt both impossibly far away and terrifyingly soon, but he would be there. At 10 o'clock, at Riverside Park, ready to meet his son properly for the first time. Whatever came next, he would be there. Saturday morning came with clear skies and a gentle breeze that made the trees along Riverside Park whisper softly. Evan arrived at 9:45, 20 minutes early as usual. He sat on a bench near the playground, watching families enjoy their weekend routines. A young father pushed his daughter on the swings while she shrieked with delight. An older man helped his grandson navigate the monkey bars. patient and encouraging. Normal family moments that Evan had never thought much about before. At exactly 10 o'clock, he saw them coming down the walking path. Naya pushed a small stroller with one hand while Micah walked beside her, holding her other hand. She wore jeans and a soft green sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Without the grey uniform, she looked younger, more like the college girl Evan remembered. Micah spotted the playground equipment and tugged toward the swings, but Naya kept their pace steady and deliberate. "Right on time," Evan said as they approached. "Always am." Nia parked the stroller and lifted out a small bag. "Snacks and water. He'll need both in about 20 minutes. Evan nodded, trying not to seem too eager. Micah had noticed him now and was studying him with curious blue eyes. "Hey, Micah," Evan said gently. "Remember me? From the other night?" Micah didn't answer, but he didn't hide behind his mother either. He just looked. "He's not much of a talker with new people," Naya explained, "but he listens to everything. That's smart." Evan stayed sitting on the bench, letting Micah set the pace. "I like your dinosaur shirt." Micah looked down at his t-shirt, which featured a friendly cartoon T-Rex, then back at Evan. Still no words, but he took a small step closer. "Would you like to see the swings?" Evan asked. This time, Micah nodded. Naya walked with them to the swing set. The playground was busy but not crowded. Other parents nodded politely as they found an empty swing sized for toddlers. "I'll push," Nia said, lifting Micah into the swing seat. For the first few minutes, Evan just watched. Micah laughed as he swung back and forth, his small hands gripping the chains. The sound was pure joy, unself-conscious and free. "He loves this," Evan observed. "Every weekend, if the weather's good." Nia kept the pushes gentle and steady. "Routine is important for him. What else does he like?" "Books, building blocks. That green dinosaur you found. He calls it Dino and takes it everywhere." Naya slowed the swing. "He likes music too, sings along to everything, even if he doesn't know the words." As if on cue, Micah started humming tunelessly as he swung. Evan found himself smiling. "Can I try pushing?" he asked. Nia hesitated, then stepped aside. "Gentle. He's little." Evan moved behind the swing and gave Micah a careful push. The little boy giggled and said, "More, more, please," Naya corrected automatically. "More, please," Micah repeated cheerfully. For the next 10 minutes, Evan pushed while Micah laughed and called for "more, please" after each swing. Nia stood nearby, watchful but relaxed. When Micah got restless, they moved to the slide. Then to the sandbox, where Micah showed Evan how to build towers with the plastic buckets Nia had brought. "You're good with him," Nia said as they cleaned sand off Micah's hands with baby wipes. "He makes it easy." Evan watched Micah examine a small shell he'd found in the sandbox. "He's so calm, happy, most of the time. You should see him when he's tired and hungry. Different story." As if she'd summoned it, Micah's face began to scrunch up. He rubbed his eyes with sandy fingers and made a cranky sound. "Snack time," Nia said immediately. She guided them to a picnic table and pulled out a small container of goldfish crackers and a sippy cup of water. Micah climbed onto the bench and ate steadily, his grumpiness fading as his blood sugar stabilized. "Smart," Evan said, knowing what he needs before he melts down. 2 years of practice. Nia sat across from them. Plus good advice from my aunt. She raised 3 boys. "Tell me about her. Your family." Naya was quiet for a moment, watching Micah eat. "Aunt Rosa lives about 10 minutes from me. Helps with babysitting when I have classes. Tasha's my cousin. You met her. She works nights at the community center too. Watches Micah when I'm in class during the day. It sounds like you have good support." "I do. We take care of each other." Naya met his eyes. "That's how family works." The gentle criticism wasn't lost on Evan. He'd had family support his whole life, financial, emotional, professional, but he'd never thought about it as a network of people taking care of each other, more like a safety net that was just there. Micah finished his snacks and wanted to explore the playground again. This time he went straight to Evan and held up his arms to be lifted down from the picnic table. The gesture was so simple and trusting that Evan felt his throat tighten. He lifted Micah carefully, surprised by how light he was, how perfectly he fit against Evan's shoulder. "Slide," Micah announced. "Okay, buddy. Let's go to the slide." They spent another 15 minutes playing. Micah warmed up enough to take Evan's hand when they walked between activities. When they finally headed back to where Naya waited with the stroller, Micah was chattering about Dino and Park and more crackers. How did that feel? Nia asked as they packed up. Natural, Evan said honestly. Scary, but natural. Good. We can try again next week if you want. Same time. I'd like that. But Nia, what about the test? The paternity test? Monday morning. I made an appointment at the community clinic on Elm Street. 9:30. Evan nodded. I'll be there. You don't have to. I know he's yours. But for legal reasons, for his birth certificate, we need it official. I want to be there. As they walked back toward the parking area, Micah began to droop with tiredness. Nia lifted him into the stroller, and he didn't protest. Thank you, Evan said as they reached Nia's bus stop. For today. For giving me this chance. Don't thank me yet. This was the easy part. Real parenting is a lot more complicated than playground visits. I know, but I want to learn. Nia studied his face. We'll see. Show up Monday, and we'll take it from there. The bus arrived as she spoke. Evan watched them climb aboard, Micah already half asleep in his stroller. Through the window, he caught Micah's eye and waved. The little boy lifted one small hand and waved back. Monday morning at the community clinic, Evan arrived 10 minutes early and found Nia already waiting in the lobby. She sat in a plastic chair with Micah on her lap, reading him a board book about farm animals. Moo, Micah said loudly as Nia turned a page. That's right, baby. The cow says moo. Evan took a seat nearby. Good morning. Morning. Nia didn't look up from the book, but her tone was neutral, not unfriendly. Moo, Micah repeated, then noticed Evan. Hi. It was the first time Micah had greeted him directly. Evan felt ridiculously pleased. Hi, Micah. Is that a good book? Micah nodded seriously and turned back to the pictures. When the nurse called them back, the actual test took less than 5 minutes. A quick swab inside Evan's cheek, another inside Micah's mouth. Micah sat still for it, more interested in the nurse's colorful scrubs than the procedure. Results in 48 to 72 hours, the nurse explained as they signed paperwork. We'll call the number on file. Outside the clinic, they stood awkwardly on the sidewalk. Micah wanted out of his stroller to examine some interesting cracks in the concrete. So, Evan said, what happens now? Now we wait, and we figure out what a real routine might look like. What do you mean? Nia adjusted Micah's jacket as a breeze picked up. Saturday morning playdates are nice, but if you're serious about being his father, it needs to be more than that. School pickup sometimes, doctor visits, ordinary Tuesday afternoons when he's cranky and bored. I want all of that. Easy to say. Harder to do when you have business meetings and social events and a life that doesn't revolve around a toddler's schedule. Evan thought about his calendar, lunch meetings, networking events, the monthly board meeting for his biggest client, all things he'd assumed were more important than anything else. What if we started with something regular, he suggested. Something I can build my schedule around. Nia was quiet for a moment, watching Micah crouch down to examine a dandelion growing through the sidewalk crack. Thursday afternoons, she said finally. I work Friday nights, so Thursday is always free. You could come to the community center around 5, spend time with him while I handle some errands. That sounds perfect. And if you're consistent with that, we can talk about adding more. How will I know if I'm passing the test? Nia almost smiled. There's no test, Evan. There's just showing up, week after week, month after month, being someone he can count on. What about you? Can you count on me too? I don't know yet. Ask me in 6 months. Micah had found a small stick and was using it to poke at the dandelion. He looked up at them with dirt on his fingers and joy on his face. I need to get him home for lunch and nap, Nia said. But I'll see you Thursday? Thursday at 5. She strapped Micah back into his stroller, despite his protests about leaving the stick behind. As they walked toward the bus stop, Evan called after them. Nia? She turned. I won't let you down this time. We'll see, she said, but her expression was softer than her words. Thursday afternoon, Evan arrived at the community center with 10 minutes to spare. He found David Ortiz setting up chairs in the main hall. Back again, David observed. Hope that's okay. Nia cleared it. You're meeting in the little courtyard out back. Safer for the kid to run around. David led him through a side door to a small outdoor space surrounded by the building's wings. Someone had painted hopscotch squares on the concrete and hung flower baskets from the covered walkway. A few picnic tables sat in the shade. Nice space, Evan said. Nia suggested it. Figured Micah would like the room to move around. At exactly 5 o'clock, Nia appeared with Micah. Today he wore tiny jeans and a shirt with a fire truck on it. He spotted Evan immediately and ran over with a big smile. "Evan, look." He held up a small toy car, bright red with working wheels. "That's a cool car, buddy. Does it go fast?" Micah immediately began running the car along the picnic table, making vrooming sounds. Nia set down a small bag and sat across from them. "How was your day?" Evan asked her. "Good. Had a test in my accounting class this morning. Think I did okay. Accounting, business degree, part-time program at the community college." Nia pulled out a water bottle and some crackers. "Figured I should have more options than cleaning offices forever." Evan felt a familiar stab of guilt. While he'd been building his business, Nia had been raising their son alone and working toward her own future. "That's smart. How much longer do you have?" "2 more semesters, if I can keep up the pace." Nia opened the crackers for Micah, who had driven his car over to investigate the food. "It's hard with his schedule, but Aunt Rosa helps." "What do you want to do with the degree?" "Maybe bookkeeping for small businesses, or office management, something with regular hours and benefits." Micah abandoned his car to eat crackers, climbing up onto the picnic bench between them. He offered Evan a cracker, which felt like a huge honor. "Thank you, Micah. That's very nice." For the next hour, they played simple games. Hide and seek around the picnic tables, rolling a ball back and forth. Reading a book Nia had brought about construction trucks. Micah seemed completely comfortable with Evan now, chattering about his toys and pointing out airplanes that flew overhead. When Micah started to get restless, Nia suggested they walk around the building's perimeter. The community center had a small garden area where someone was growing tomatoes and sunflowers. "Pretty," Micah announced, reaching toward a yellow flower. "Gentle touches," Nia reminded him. "Plants are delicate." Micah carefully patted a flower petal, then looked at Evan for approval. "Gentle, very gentle. Good job." As they walked back toward the courtyard, Micah suddenly stumbled and scraped his knee on the concrete. He looked surprised for a moment, then began to cry, the heartbroken wail of a tired toddler who'd had a small hurt. Nia immediately scooped him up. "Oh, baby, you're okay. Let Mama look." Evan felt helpless as Micah sobbed against his mother's shoulder. "Is he hurt badly?" "Just scraped, but it scared him." Nia sat on a bench and examined Micah's knee. "See? Just a little red mark. No blood." Micah's crying quieted to sniffles. Nia kissed his knee and said, "All better now?" He nodded but stayed cuddled against her. "Should I get ice?" Evan asked. "Or a Band-Aid?" "He's fine. Just needs a minute to settle down." Nia rubbed Micah's back in slow circles. "This is what I meant about real parenting. It's not all playground giggles." Evan sat beside them on the bench. "What can I do to help?" "Just be calm. Kids pick up on adult stress." Sure enough, within a few minutes, Micah had recovered completely. He climbed down from Nia's lap and went back to his toy car, the scraped knee forgotten. "That was impressive," Evan said quietly. "What? How you handled that? You didn't panic, didn't make it worse by getting upset. You just knew what to do. Practice. Plus Aunt Rosa taught me that the parent's reaction sets the tone. If I freak out, he freaks out. I would have freaked out." "You'll learn. All parents do." The word parents, plural, hit Evan unexpectedly. For the first time, Nia had included him in that category. As 6 o'clock approached, Micah began showing signs of tiredness, rubbing his eyes, getting cranky about small things, wanting to be picked up more often. "Time to head home," Nia announced. "Can I walk you to the bus stop?" Evan asked. "Sure." They packed up Micah's toys and headed toward the front of the building. In the lobby, they ran into David, who was locking up his office. "How did it go?" David asked. "Good," Nia said. "He's getting comfortable." David looked at Evan. "You sticking around for this?" "I plan to." "Good. Kid deserves a dad who shows up." Outside, as they waited for the bus, Micah began to droop with exhaustion. Nia lifted him into his stroller, and he didn't protest. "Same time next week?" Evan asked. "If you want." "I do." "And Nia, what you said about adding more to the schedule, what would that look like?" Nia was quiet for a moment, adjusting Micah's blanket. "Maybe Saturday mornings and Thursday evenings to start. See how that goes." "I'd like that." The bus arrived with a hydraulic hiss. As Nia maneuvered the stroller up the ramp, Evan felt an unexpected reluctance to see them go. "Drive safe," Nia said as she settled into a seat. You too. Have a safe trip home. Through the window, Evan could see Micah already falling asleep in his stroller. The sight of his son's peaceful face, completely trusting and safe, filled Evan with something he'd never felt before. Not just love, but responsibility. The deep, unshakable knowledge that this child's well-being mattered more than anything else in the world. Friday morning brought the phone call Evan had been expecting. Mr. Hale, this is Jennifer from Community Medical. Your paternity test results are ready. And 99.8% probability of paternity. Congratulations, Mr. Hale. Evan sank into his office chair. He'd known the truth since the moment he saw Micah's eyes, but having it confirmed, officially, felt different. Final. Real. He called Nia immediately. I got the results, he said when she answered. Me too. Her voice was neutral. Professional. So what happens now? Now we figure out how to do this right. I want to help. With everything. Money, medical insurance, daycare costs, whatever you need. Evan, I know you've been handling everything alone, but you don't have to anymore. I want to be a real partner in this. Nia was quiet for so long that Evan thought the call had dropped. Nia? I'm here. This is a lot to process. We don't have to decide everything today. But I want you to know that I'm committed. Not just to weekend visits, but to really sharing this with you. Okay, can we talk about the practical stuff this weekend? Maybe after our playground time on Saturday? Whatever you want. Good. I'll see you Saturday at 10. After she hung up, Evan sat in his office staring at his computer screen. Everything looked the same as it had an hour ago, but everything was different too. He was a father now. Officially. Legally. Completely. His phone buzzed with a text from his mother. Lunch Sunday? I want to hear all about your week. Evan stared at the message for a long time. He'd been avoiding his family since the award ceremony, making excuses about being busy with work. But he couldn't keep the secret forever, and now that the paternity results were official, there was no more hiding. He typed back, "Can we make it dinner instead? I have something important to tell you." His mother's response came immediately. "Everything okay? You're worrying me." "Everything's fine. Just complicated. I'll explain Sunday." "Okay, honey. Looking forward to it." Evan put his phone away and tried to focus on work, but his mind kept wandering to Saturday morning, to Micah's laugh, and Nia's careful smile, and the feeling of his son's small hand in his. In 2 days, he'd see them again, and this time there would be no doubt about who he was or what role he wanted to play in their lives. He was Micah's father. Now he just had to figure out how to be the father Micah deserved. Saturday brought rain, which meant the playground was out. Instead, they met at the community center's indoor play area, a room with soft mats, low climbing structures, and bins of age-appropriate toys. Micah seemed unfazed by the change in routine. He immediately gravitated toward a set of large foam blocks and began building towers for Evan to knock down. "Again," Micah shouted, with delight each time the blocks tumbled. "He could do this for hours," Nia said, sitting cross-legged on the mat nearby. "Simple games are the best at this age." Evan rebuilt the tower and let Micah knock it down again. The pure joy on his son's face was infectious. "How are you feeling about the test results?" Nia asked during a quiet moment. "Relieved, I guess. Even though I knew, having it official feels important." "It is important. For his birth certificate, for school registration, for medical decisions." Nia watched Micah stack blocks with serious concentration. "For child support calculations." The last comment hung in the air between them. "Nia, about money. We need to talk about it. I've been doing some research on how this usually works." Evan stopped building blocks and looked at her directly. "What do you mean, how it usually works?" "Child support, custody arrangements, visitation schedules, the legal framework for co-parenting." "Legal framework?" Evan felt something cold settle in his stomach. "You want to make this legal?" "Evan, it is legal now. The test results make you his legal father. That comes with rights and responsibilities, whether we file paperwork or not." Micah had lost interest in blocks and moved to a small slide in the corner of the room. He climbed up the steps carefully and slid down, then immediately climbed again. "I don't want lawyers involved," Evan said. "I thought we were figuring this out together." "We are, but we need to be smart about it too." Nia's voice stayed calm and reasonable. "What happens if you get tired of playing daddy? What happens if I decide you're not good for him? What happens if one of us wants to move or gets married or has other kids? Each question hit like a small punch. Evan hadn't thought beyond the immediate challenge of building a relationship with Micah. I'm not going to get tired of this. You say that now, but your life is going to change a lot. Every weekend, every holiday, every vacation will have to be planned around a child. Every decision about your career or where you live will have to consider his needs too. Micah had moved on to a toy kitchen and was very seriously cooking plastic food. He offered Naya a plastic banana, which she accepted with appropriate enthusiasm. Thank you, baby. This looks delicious. I understand that my life needs to change, Evan said. I want it to change. Okay, then let's talk about what that looks like practically. For the next 30 minutes, while Micah played, they had the conversation Evan had been avoiding. Child support based on his income, a formal visitation schedule that would expand as Micah got older, emergency contact protocols, holiday arrangements. It all sounded so clinical and cold compared to the warm feeling of reading stories and building block towers. This feels like we're planning for failure, Evan said finally. We're planning for reality. The best co-parenting relationships have clear boundaries and expectations. It protects everyone, especially Micah. Micah had tired himself out with playing and climbed into Nia's lap for a snuggle. His hair was damp with sweat, and his cheeks were pink from exertion. Mama, he said sleepily. Home now? In a few minutes, baby. Evan watched them together and felt the truth of what Nia was saying. This wasn't just about his feelings or his desire to be a good father. This was about creating a stable, secure environment for a child who hadn't asked to be born into a complicated situation. You're right, he said. We should make this official. But can we write our own agreement first, before involving lawyers? I'd like that. Something simple that we can both live with. What's the most important thing to you? Evan asked. In terms of how we do this? Nia looked down at Micah, who was fighting sleep in her arms. Consistency. I need to know you'll be where you say you'll be, when you say you'll be there. He needs to know that too. And what's the most important thing to you personally? Not just as his mother, but as Nia. She was quiet for a long moment. Respect. I've been his only parent for 2 years. I've made good decisions for him. I need to know that you trust my judgment and won't try to undermine my authority. I would never do that. Not intentionally. But if we disagree about something, his bedtime, his diet, his behavior, what happens? Evan thought about it. You have the final say, at least until we've built more trust between us. Nia nodded slowly. That's fair. Micah had fallen asleep in her arms, his small body completely relaxed. The sight of his peaceful face made Evan's chest tight with protective instinct. I want to meet your family, he said quietly. Your aunt, your cousin, the people who've been helping you raise him. Why? Because they're important to him, and because I want them to know that I'm serious about this. Nia studied his face. That might be arranged, but fair warning, they're protective of us, especially Aunt Rosa. She's not going to make it easy for you. I wouldn't expect her to. As they packed up to leave, Micah woke up cranky from his impromptu nap. He wanted his stroller but also wanted to walk. He wanted his snack but threw the crackers on the floor. He wanted his toy car but couldn't remember where he'd left it. Nia handled it all with patient efficiency, but Evan could see the tiredness around her eyes. Let me help, he said as they headed toward the exit. It's okay. He's just overtired. I know, but I'm here. Use me. Nia looked surprised but handed him the diaper bag while she focused on getting Micah settled in his stroller. It was a small thing, but it felt significant. A tiny step toward actually sharing the load instead of just visiting during the fun parts. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like wet concrete and fresh leaves. Micah had calmed down and was pointing out puddles from his stroller. Puddle, he announced. Big puddle. Very big, Evan agreed. Good spotting. At the bus stop, Nia turned to him. Next week we'll start with Tuesday evening too, just for an hour. See how that goes. I'd like that. And Evan, thank you for listening today. About the practical stuff. I know it's not as fun as playing, but it matters. You're right. It does matter. All of it matters. As the bus pulled up, Micah waved at Evan from his stroller. Bye-bye. See you later. See you later, buddy. Evan watched the bus disappear into traffic, then walked slowly back to his car. His phone buzzed with a reminder about dinner with his mother tomorrow. Time to tell his family that their lives were about to change too. But first, he had some thinking to do about what kind of father he wanted to be. Not just the fun weekend version, but the real thing. The everyday, show up when it's hard, put someone else first version. It was the most important job he'd ever taken on, and for the first time in his adult life, success wouldn't be measured in dollars or contracts or industry recognition. It would be measured in a little boy's trust and in the respect of the woman who had kept their son safe and loved while Evan figured out how to grow up. Sunday dinner at the Heir family home always followed the same pattern. Evan's mother, Marla, would spend hours preparing a meal that could feed 10 people. His father would complain about the news while setting the table. His younger sister Kelly would arrive fashionably late with stories about her latest art gallery opening. Tonight felt different. Evan sat in his childhood bedroom, staring at a framed photo of himself at Micah's age. The resemblance was undeniable. Same pale blue eyes, same stubborn chin, same serious expression when concentrating. "Evan, dinner," his mother called from downstairs. The dining room smelled like roast beef and fresh bread. His parents had already started eating, discussing neighborhood gossip and his father's golf game. Kelly hadn't arrived yet. "So," Marla said as Evan filled his plate, "tell me about this important thing. You've been so mysterious." Evan set down his fork. "I'm a father." The silence stretched for several seconds. His father stopped chewing. His mother blinked twice, then set down her water glass very carefully. "I'm sorry?" Marla said. "I have a son. His name is Micah. He's 2 years old." "Evan," his father said slowly, "what are you talking about?" For the next 20 minutes, Evan explained everything. The award ceremony, recognizing Nia, the paternity test, his growing relationship with Micah. His parents listened without interrupting, their expressions shifting from confusion to shock to something that looked like concern. "And you're sure he's yours?" Marla asked when he finished. 99.8% sure, according to the lab. "But Evan," his mother continued, "you never mentioned this girl during college. Nia, you said?" "Nia Carter. We worked together on the night cleaning crew junior year." Evan saw his parents exchange a look, the kind of look that meant they were communicating without words. "What's her background?" his father asked. "Her family?" "Dad, it's a reasonable question. If she's the mother of your child, we should know something about her. She's working on a business degree while raising our son and holding down a job. Her family helps with childcare. That's all you need to know right now." "Evan," Marla said gently, "this is a lot to process. Have you considered that she might be looking for financial support? It's not uncommon for women in difficult situations to—" "Stop." Evan's voice came out sharper than he intended. "Nia isn't looking for anything from me. She's been raising Micah alone for 2 years without any help. I'm the one who wants to be involved." "Of course, honey. I just think we should be careful. Make sure everyone's motives are clear." The front door opened, and Kelly's voice carried from the hallway. "Sorry, I'm late. Traffic was insane." Kelly breezed into the dining room wearing paint-splattered jeans and an oversized sweater. She kissed their mother's cheek and slid into her usual chair. "What did I miss? You all look like someone died." "Your brother has some news," their father said. Evan went through the explanation again. Kelly's reaction was completely different from their parents'. Her face lit up with excitement. "I'm an aunt? Seriously? Where are pictures? When do I get to meet him?" "Kelly," Marla warned, "let's think this through carefully." "Think what through?" "Evan's a dad. That's amazing." Kelly turned to Evan. "What's he like? Does he look like you? Can I babysit?" For the first time since arriving, Evan smiled. "He's incredible, smart and funny and curious about everything. And yes, he looks exactly like me at that age. This is so exciting. When do I meet them?" "Soon, I hope. We're taking things slowly, building trust." "That's wise," his father said. "These situations can be delicate." "What situations?" Kelly asked. Another look passed between their parents. Evan felt his chest tighten. "Kelly," Marla said carefully, "there are practical considerations, legal implications, public relations concerns." "Mom," Evan said quietly, "don't. I'm just saying that your business depends on your reputation, and with the award ceremony already raising questions." "What questions?" Kelly looked confused. "There was a video," their father explained. "Someone posted it online. Evan making an unfortunate joke, then leaving the stage abruptly." Evan felt cold suddenly. "What video?" "It's not bad," Marla said quickly. "Just a brief clip. But people are speculating about what happened." "Show me." Marla pulled out her phone and found the video. It was shaky and short, maybe 30 seconds of Evan making his mopping up messes joke, then the camera catching his face as he spotted Nia and Micah. The video ended as Evan stepped off the stage, his award forgotten. The comments below were worse than the video itself. Something definitely happened there. He looked like he saw a ghost. Plot twist incoming. Anyone know what this was about? Evan handed the phone back. How many views? About 1,500. It's not viral or anything, but people in town have seen it. This is exactly what I was worried about, Marla continued. If word gets out about the child, people will put the pieces together. The timing, the circumstances. So what? Kelly demanded. He made a mistake 3 years ago. He's fixing it now. That's what matters. Kelly, you don't understand how these things work, their father said. Evan has clients who care about image, conservative donors who support family values. This kind of situation could affect his business. This kind of situation? Evan's voice was dangerously quiet. You know what I mean. An unplanned child with someone from a different background. People will judge. Then maybe those aren't the kind of people I want as clients. The room went silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Evan, Marla said softly, we're not trying to be difficult. We just want what's best for you. What's best for me is being a good father to my son. Of course. But you need to think about how you handle this publicly. Maybe wait until things are more settled before making any announcements. See how the relationship develops. Evan pushed back from the table. The relationship? You mean my relationship with my child? With his mother, his father clarified. These situations work better when there's a stable partnership in place. These situations, Evan repeated. You keep saying that. What exactly do you think this situation is? No one answered. Evan stood up. I'm going to be very clear about something. Micah is my son. Nia is his mother. They are both part of my life now, permanently. If that makes anyone uncomfortable, that's their problem to solve, not mine. He headed toward the door. Evan, wait, Marla called. Don't leave angry. We're family. Then act like it. My son is family too now. Outside, Evan sat in his car for several minutes before starting the engine. His phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. I'm proud of you. Can't wait to meet my nephew. At least someone in his family had the right reaction. Tuesday evening's visit with Micah went better than Evan had expected. They read books in the community center's quiet room while Nia handled some paperwork nearby. Micah had started calling him Evan instead of avoiding his name altogether, which felt like progress. Dinosaur book, Micah announced, bringing over his favorite story about a friendly T-Rex who learned to share. Good choice, buddy. As Evan read, Micah leaned against his side, thumb in his mouth. The simple trust of the gesture made Evan's chest tight with emotion. Whatever complications existed in the adult world, this part was pure and uncomplicated. Again, Micah said when the story ended. Again? Are you sure you don't want a different book? Micah shook his head firmly. Dinosaur. Evan glanced at Nia, who smiled. He'll listen to the same story 20 times if you let him. Routine is comforting. They were halfway through the second reading when David appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt. Nia, there's someone here asking for you. Says it's important. Nia frowned. Who? Lady in a business suit. Says she's from Channel 7 News. The blood drained from Nia's face. Evan felt his stomach drop. I'll handle this, Evan said, starting to stand. No, Nia's voice was sharp. Stay with Micah. I'll deal with it. She left quickly. Evan tried to continue reading, but his mind was racing. How had a news reporter found Nia? What did they want? Micah sensed the tension. Mama? Mama's talking to someone. She'll be right back. Through the doorway, Evan could hear voices in the lobby. He couldn't make out words, but Nia's tone was firm and professional. Done reading, Micah announced, climbing down from Evan's lap. Okay, buddy. What would you like to do? They moved to the puzzle area, but Evan's attention was split. After 10 minutes, Nia returned, looking shaken. What was that about? Evan asked quietly. Later, when he's not listening. They finished the visit with forced normalcy. Micah seemed to sense something was wrong but couldn't identify what. He was clingy with Nia and kept asking for more hugs. At the bus stop, after Micah was settled in his stroller, Nia finally explained. The reporter wanted to ask about my relationship with prominent local businessman Evan Heir. She'd seen the video from the award ceremony and had questions about why you left the stage. What did you tell her? That I had no comment and no relationship with you beyond cleaning the building where you received an award. Nia's voice was tight. But she knew about Micah. She asked if my son was the reason for your dramatic exit. Evan felt sick. Did she take pictures? I don't think so. But Evan, this is exactly what I was worried about. I don't want us to become some kind of news story. We won't. I'll call the station, explain that it's a private matter. No, Nia's tone was firm. You calling them will only confirm that there's a story to tell. We need to be invisible right now. The bus arrived with its usual hiss of brakes. As Nia maneuvered Micah's stroller aboard, she looked back at Evan. Maybe we should take a break from visits, until this dies down. Nia, no. Don't let them scare you away from what we're building. I'm not scared. I'm protecting my son. The bus doors closed before Evan could respond. Through the window, he could see Micah waving at him, oblivious to the adult complications swirling around his small world. Wednesday morning, Evan arrived at his office to find 3 missed calls from his mother and a text from his business partner, Marcus. We need to talk. Call me. Evan called Marcus first. Have you seen the news today? Marcus asked without preamble. What news? Channel 7 ran a piece about mystery woman linked to local entrepreneur. They didn't use your name, but they showed the video from the award ceremony and interviewed some sources close to the situation. Evan sank into his desk chair. What did the sources say? That you left abruptly after seeing someone in the audience, that you've been spotted multiple times at the community center, that there are rumors about a child. Christ. Evan, I need to know what's going on. Our biggest client called this morning asking questions. If there's something I need to be prepared for. There's a child, Evan said. My son. I just found out about him recently. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Okay. And the mother? Someone I knew in college. She's a good person, Marcus. She's been raising him alone. I'm not judging. I'm asking about damage control. Do we need lawyers? PR help? A statement? We need to stay quiet and let it blow over. Will it blow over? Or is there more coming? Evan thought about the reporter's questions, about his parents' concerns, about Nia's fear of becoming a news story. I don't know. After hanging up with Marcus, Evan called his mother. Oh, honey, Marla said before he could speak. Have you seen the news? Marcus told me about it. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. And there are already people speculating online about who the woman might be. Mum, I need you to stay out of this. Don't talk to any reporters. Don't confirm anything. Just let me handle it. Of course. But Evan, maybe this is a sign that you should slow things down. Take some time to think about how you want to approach this publicly. I'm not slowing anything down. But if it's affecting your business, my business will be fine. And even if it wasn't, that wouldn't change anything. Micah is my son. I understand that. But you have to be practical too. After the call, Evan sat staring at his computer screen. He had a proposal to finish for a potential new client, a conservative family foundation that supported traditional values initiatives, the kind of client his father thought he might lose if word got out about his situation. Maybe his father was right. Maybe some clients would have a problem with an entrepreneur who had an unplanned child with a black woman he'd barely stayed in touch with. Evan deleted the proposal draft and closed his laptop. If those were the kind of clients he'd lose, maybe he was better off without them. Thursday afternoon, Evan arrived at the community center 15 minutes early, hoping to talk to Nia before their scheduled visit. He found her in the break room, looking tired. Rough day? He asked. My aunt saw the news story. She's worried about photographers following Micah around. That's not going to happen. You can't promise that. Nia looked at him directly. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Us becoming some kind of public curiosity. It'll die down. These stories always do. Will it? Or will the next step be reporters showing up at my apartment? At Micah's daycare? Evan felt the weight of her fear. She wasn't being paranoid. She was being realistic about how media attention worked. What can I do to fix this? I don't know if you can. Micah appeared in the doorway, holding his favorite dinosaur. Evan, play trucks? The pure joy in his son's voice was a sharp contrast to the heavy conversation happening between the adults. Sure, buddy. Let's go play trucks. For the next hour, they played with toy vehicles and read books, but the tension was palpable. Nia stayed closer than usual, watching the doors like she expected reporters to burst through at any moment. Mama sad? Micah asked during a quiet moment, looking between his parents with worried eyes. Mama's just tired, baby, Nia said, forcing a smile. But Micah wasn't fooled. He abandoned his toys and climbed into Nia's lap for a hug. "Make better? You always make everything better," Nia told him, holding him close. Evan watched them together and felt a profound sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about his relationship with his son anymore. His presence in their lives was creating stress and fear for both of them. "Maybe we should cancel Saturday," he said quietly. "Why?" "Because you're worried. Because this is affecting you both." Nia was quiet for a long moment, stroking Micah's hair as he dozed against her shoulder. "I don't want him to suffer because adults can't figure out how to behave," she said finally. "Neither do I. But I also don't want to live in fear. If we hide every time someone asks questions, we're teaching him that our family is something to be ashamed of." "Our family," Evan repeated. Nia looked at him sharply, as if she hadn't meant to use that phrase. "You know what I mean. Saturday morning at the park," Evan said. "Same as always. And if any reporters show up, I'll handle them." "How?" "I'll tell them the truth. That Micah is my son. That I'm grateful to be part of his life, and that our private family matters are none of their business. And if that makes things worse for your business." Evan looked at his son, peaceful in his mother's arms, completely trusting that the adults in his life would protect him. "Then I'll find new business." Friday brought an unexpected complication. Evan was leaving his office when he found a woman waiting by his car, mid-50s, professionally dressed, with the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Hale, I'm Jennifer Walsh from the Metro Tribune. I was hoping we could chat." "I have no comment. Just a few questions about your relationship with Nia Carter and her son." Evan stopped walking. "How do you know her name?" "Public records. Once we knew to look for a connection to the community center, it wasn't difficult to piece together. There's no story here." "I think there is. Successful businessman, unacknowledged child. It's a very human interest angle. The child isn't unacknowledged. He's my son." Jennifer Walsh's smile became more genuine. "So you confirm that the child is yours?" Evan realized his mistake too late. "This conversation is over. Mr. Hale, I'm going to write this story with or without your cooperation. Wouldn't you prefer to have your perspective included?" "My perspective is that my family's privacy should be respected." "Is Miss Carter part of your family? Are you planning to marry her?" Evan got into his car without answering. As he drove away, he could see the reporter making notes on her phone. He called Nia immediately. "They know your name," he said when she answered. "What?" He explained about the reporter, about his slip in confirming Micah was his son. "Evan, you can't talk to them at all. Every word you say just gives them more to work with. I was trying to protect you both." "I know, but now they have confirmation. The story's going to run." Evan heard Micah chattering in the background, something about trucks and crackers. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to disappear," Nia said quietly. "Take Micah somewhere safe where people don't know our business." "Don't do that, please." "I'm not going to, but I want to. The story will run, and people will talk for a few days, and then it'll be over. These things always blow over." "Easy for you to say. You're not a single black mother who's about to be painted as some kind of gold digger." The words hit Evan like a slap. He hadn't considered how the story might be framed, what assumptions people might make about Nia's motives. "Anyone who knows you would never think that. The whole point is that most people don't know me. They'll know what gets printed in the paper. Then we control the narrative. We tell our story our way." "There is no our story, Evan. There's your story and my story, and Micah's story. They don't have to be the same thing." Before he could respond, she hung up. Evan sat in his car outside his apartment complex, feeling like everything was spinning out of control. 3 weeks ago, his biggest concern had been landing new clients and managing his business growth. Now he was a father with a complicated co-parenting situation that was about to become public knowledge. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Kelly. "Saw the news van outside Mom and Dad's house. Call me." Then another from Marcus. "Tribune called asking for comment. I told them no comment, but heads up." And finally, one from his mother. "We need to talk. This is getting out of hand." Evan looked at the messages and made a decision. He turned off his phone, went upstairs to his apartment, and spent the evening researching family lawyers and crisis management consultants. If this was going to become public, he needed to be prepared. And more importantly, he needed to make sure Nia and Micah were protected from whatever came next. His son deserved better than to become a news story. They all did. Saturday morning, Evan arrived at Riverside Park with a knot in his stomach and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. He half expected to see news vans or photographers, but the park looked completely normal. Families with children, joggers on the path, an elderly man feeding ducks by the pond. Nia was already there, sitting on their usual bench with Micah in his stroller. She wore sunglasses despite the overcast sky, and her posture was tense. "Any problems getting here?" Evan asked as he approached. "No reporters, if that's what you mean. But I feel like everyone's staring." Evan looked around. A few people glanced their way, but it seemed like normal curiosity rather than recognition. "Maybe it's just in our heads." "Maybe." Micah had spotted Evan and was reaching up from his stroller. "Out, Evan, play. Hey, buddy, want to go see the ducks?" They walked to the pond, Micah toddling between them with one hand holding each parent's fingers. To anyone watching, they probably looked like an ordinary family on a weekend outing. "Duck," Micah announced excitedly, pointing at the mallards swimming near the shore. "Big ducks," Evan agreed. "And look, baby ducks too." Sure enough, a mother duck swam by with 3 small ducklings trailing behind her. "Babies," Micah whispered with reverence. They spent 20 minutes watching the ducks and feeding them pieces of bread from a bag Nia had brought. Micah was fascinated by the way the ducklings stayed close to their mother, never straying far from her protection. "Mama duck," Micah observed, then looked up at Nia. "Like you, Mama." "That's right, baby. Mama ducks take care of their babies. And daddy ducks too." The question hung in the air. Nia glanced at Evan, then back at Micah. "Some daddy ducks do," she said carefully. "The good ones stay close to their families." Evan felt the weight of that statement. The challenge and the hope wrapped up together. When they moved to the playground, Micah ran straight for the swings. This had become their routine. Swings first, then the slide, then the sandbox, if he wasn't too tired. "Higher," Micah called as Evan pushed the swing. "Not too high," Nia said automatically. "He's little." But Evan could tell she was distracted. Her eyes kept scanning the park, watching for anything that seemed out of place. "Nia," he said quietly as Micah swung back and forth. "We can't live like this." "Like what?" "Looking over our shoulders, waiting for reporters, being afraid to be seen together." "I'm not afraid to be seen with you. I'm afraid of what people will say about me when they do see us." A woman with 2 young children had claimed the swings next to them. She smiled politely at Evan and Nia, then did a subtle double take. Evan saw her eyes narrow slightly as she tried to place where she'd seen them before. "Mummy, push me," one of her children called. The woman turned her attention back to her kids, but Evan caught her taking another look at them a minute later. "She recognizes us," he said quietly. "I know. What do? We act normal. We don't give her anything dramatic to report back to her friends." They finished their playground time without incident, but the feeling of being watched never fully went away. Other parents seemed to look at them a moment too long. A jogger slowed down as he passed their bench. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe word was already spreading through the community. As they packed up to leave, Micah had his usual post-playground meltdown. He was tired and overstimulated, and he wanted to keep playing even though it was clearly time to go. "No, go," he wailed as Nia tried to get him into his stroller. "More swings. We'll come back next week, baby. Right now it's time for lunch." Micah threw himself on the ground in full tantrum mode, crying and kicking. Nia handled it with calm efficiency. She didn't get angry or embarrassed, just patient and firm. "I know you're disappointed. It's hard when fun things have to end, but we still need to go home." Evan felt helpless watching the scene. He wanted to help, but he wasn't sure what to do. This was clearly familiar territory for Nia, but new ground for him. "Can I try?" he asked. Nia nodded, stepping back slightly. Evan knelt down next to Micah, who was still crying on the grass. "Hey, buddy, that was really fun, wasn't it?" Micah's sobs slowed slightly. "I had fun too. And you know what? We get to come back next week and do it all again." "Promise?" Micah hiccuped. "Promise. But right now your mama's right. It's time for lunch. Are you hungry?" Micah considered this, then nodded. "Okay then. Let's go get some food." To Evan's surprise, Micah let him pick him up and settle him in the stroller without further protest. The tantrum was over as quickly as it had started. "Nice work," Nia said quietly. "Beginner's luck." "No, that was good instinct. You acknowledged his feelings but didn't negotiate with the tantrum." As they walked toward the parking area, Evan felt proud of the small moment of successful parenting. It was such a tiny thing, but it felt significant. "Nia," he said as they reached her bus stop, Whatever happens with the news story, whatever people say, I want you to know something. What? I'm proud to be Micah's father, and I'm grateful that you're his mother. Whatever else gets complicated, those facts won't change. Nia looked at him for a long moment, her sunglasses hiding her expression. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. The bus arrived, and as they went through their usual goodbye routine, Evan noticed the woman from the playground walking past with her children. She slowed down just enough to get a clear look at them together. By Monday morning, Evan was pretty sure the whole neighborhood would know that he had a child with the woman who cleaned the community center. The question was, what would they think about that fact? And more importantly, how would it affect Nia and Micah when they found out? Monday morning's Tribune headline made Evan's stomach drop. Local entrepreneur's secret son. The untold story behind the viral video. The article was worse than he'd feared. While it didn't directly attack Nia, the implications were clear. The reporter had dug up details about Evan's college internship, his family's business connections, and Nia's work history. The story painted a picture of a successful man caught off guard by an unplanned consequence from his past. Worst of all, there was a photo. Someone had taken a picture at the park on Saturday, Evan and Nia walking with Micah between them, all three holding hands. The caption read, Evan Hale with his son and the child's mother, Nia Carter. Evan's phone had been buzzing non-stop since 6 a.m. Clients, colleagues, family members. He'd turned it off after the 15th call. At 9:30, he drove to the community center. He needed to see Nia, needed to face whatever damage this had caused together. He found her in the break room with Tasha, both women looking grim. Micah played quietly with blocks in the corner, oblivious to the tension. I saw the article, Evan said. Everyone saw the article, Tasha replied sharply. It's all over social media. Nia looked exhausted. My phone's been ringing all morning. Reporters, strangers, people from high school I haven't talked to in years. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. Yes, it is. Tasha's voice was cold. But sorry doesn't fix it. Tasha, Nia said quietly. No, Nia. He needs to hear this. You and Micah were fine before he showed up. Now you're front-page news because some rich boy couldn't keep his mouth shut. Evan wanted to defend himself but couldn't. Tasha was right. What can I do? He asked. Nothing, Nia said. The damage is done. Now we just have to deal with it. Micah had abandoned his blocks and was tugging on his mother's sleeve. Mama sad? Mama's okay, baby. But Micah wasn't convinced. He looked around the room with worried eyes, sensing the adult stress, even if he couldn't understand it. Maybe I should go, Evan said. Give you space to figure this out. Don't you dare. Nia's voice was firm. You don't get to create this mess and then disappear when it gets uncomfortable. I wasn't disappearing. I was giving you room to breathe. What I need is for you to step up. Really step up. Not just weekend visits and playground time. Evan sat down across from her. Tell me what that means. It means owning this publicly. Not hiding behind, no comment, and hoping it goes away. You want me to talk to reporters? I want you to make it clear that Micah isn't some embarrassing secret, that we're not some shameful mistake you're trying to manage. Tasha snorted. Good luck with that. His family's probably already hired a crisis management team. Have they? Nia asked, looking directly at Evan. No, but my mother did suggest we consider a public relations consultant. Of course she did. Micah had climbed into a chair and was watching the conversation like a tennis match, his head turning between speakers. Evan realized how this must look to a 2-year-old, all his important adults upset and talking in sharp voices. Hey, buddy, Evan said gently. Want to go look at the fish tank in the lobby? Micah nodded eagerly. Any escape from the tense room sounded good. They walked to the lobby where a large aquarium held colorful tropical fish. Micah pressed his nose to the glass and pointed excitedly. Fish, bluefish, yellowfish. I see them. They're very pretty. For a few minutes, they watched the fish swim peacefully in their contained world. No reporters, no judgment, no complications. Just bright colors, moving through clean water. Evan, Micah said quietly. Yeah, buddy? Mama sad because of me? The question broke Evan's heart. No, Micah. Mama's not sad because of you. You make her happy every single day. Then why? How do you explain adult complications to a 2-year-old? How do you make sense of pride and fear and public judgment? Sometimes grown-ups have problems that have nothing to do with little boys, Evan said carefully. But Mama and Daddy are going to fix the problems. Okay? It was the first time he'd referred to himself as Daddy out loud. Micah didn't seem surprised by the word. Okay, Micah said, accepting this explanation with the faith children have in adults to solve things. When they returned to the break room, Naya and Tasha had been joined by David Ortiz. They all looked up as Evan and Micah entered. How bad is it? Evan asked David. Bad enough. I've had 3 reporters call asking about Naya's work schedule. Someone tried to get into the building this morning claiming to be a parent looking for childcare information. I'm taking the week off, Nia said. I can't work with people trying to ambush me. You shouldn't have to do that. But I do. Because this is my reality now. Evan looked around the room, at Naya's tired face, at Tasha's angry expression, at David's concern, at his son playing quietly while his world got turned upside down. What if I made a statement? He said. What kind of statement? Tasha asked suspiciously. The truth, that Micah is my son, that I'm grateful to be part of his life, that Naya is an amazing mother who's been doing everything right while I was figuring out how to be a father. And what about your business, your reputation? Nia asked. What about them? Your parents said. My parents are worried about the wrong things. Evan sat down next to Micah, who immediately climbed into his lap. This little guy is more important than any client or business deal. Pretty words, Tasha said. But what happens when it costs you money? When conservative donors don't want to work with someone who has a baby mama? The phrase made Evan wince. Don't call her that. That's what people are calling her. That's what they'll keep calling her unless you do something to change the narrative. Evan looked down at Micah, who was playing with the buttons on Evan's shirt with serious concentration. Such a small person to cause such big complications in the adult world. What would the statement say? Nia asked quietly. That 3 years ago, I made the mistake of walking away from something important. That I missed 2 years of my son's life because I was too immature to recognize what mattered. That I'm working every day to be the father he deserves and to support the woman who kept him safe while I figured things out. The room was quiet except for Micah's soft humming as he played. You'd really say that publicly? Nia asked. I'd say it on every news station in the state, if it would help. It might not help your business. Then I'll build a different business. David cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I think honesty's the best policy here. Cover-ups and no-comment responses just make people more curious. Tasha was still skeptical. And what happens when the news cycle moves on? When people stop paying attention? Will you still be showing up for Thursday evening visits and Saturday mornings? Yes, even when it's not convenient. Even when business is busy, or you meet some woman who doesn't want the complication of a ready-made family. Evan met her eyes directly. Yes, because he's my son, and because I love him. It was the first time he'd said those words out loud. They felt both terrifying and absolutely true. Micah looked up at him with those familiar blue eyes. Love you too, Daddy. The casual way he said it suggested this wasn't the first time Micah had had these feelings, just the first time the adults were ready to hear them. Naya's expression softened slightly. If you're serious about making a statement, we should do it together. Together? As his parents. As a united front. Show people that we're not some scandal or mess to be managed, but 2 people committed to raising a child well. You'd do that? For him? Yes. The press conference was held Wednesday afternoon in the community center's main hall. David had offered the space, saying it felt appropriate to address the situation where it had all started. Evan wore a simple blue button-down and khakis, professional but not flashy. Nia chose a navy dress that was elegant but not expensive-looking. Micah stayed with Aunt Rosa, safely away from the cameras. About 20 reporters showed up, along with representatives from 3 local TV stations. Evan's parents sat in the back row, looking uncomfortable but present. Kelly had insisted on coming too, for moral support. Evan stepped up to the small podium David had set up. Thank you all for coming. I want to address the speculation about my personal life directly and honestly. He glanced at Nia, who nodded encouragingly from her seat in the front row. 3 years ago, I worked the night shift cleaning buildings to help pay for college. During that time, I met Nia Carter, who was also working to support her education. We became close friends, and eventually, more than friends. He could hear the scratch of pens on paper, the quiet hum of recording devices. When I received an unexpected internship opportunity in Seattle, I made a decision I now regret deeply. I left without maintaining contact, without considering that my actions might have consequences beyond my own life. Evan's throat felt dry, but he continued. 2 years ago, Nia gave birth to my son, Micah. She tried to reach me, but I had not left proper contact information. For the past 2 years, she has raised our child alone, with grace, wisdom, and dedication I can only aspire to match. A reporter raised her hand. Mr. Hale, are you and Miss Carter in a romantic relationship now? We are focused on co-parenting our son and building the trust necessary to do that well. What about your business? Are you concerned about the impact this revelation might have? Evan looked out at the audience, seeing familiar faces from the business community mixed with strangers and reporters. If my having a child affects my business relationships, then those weren't the right relationships for me anyway. Micah is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I won't apologize for that. Another hand shot up. Miss Carter, what do you want people to know? Nia stood and moved to the podium. She looked calm and dignified, completely in control. I want people to know that my son is not a scandal, or a secret, or a mistake. He is a bright, happy, loving child who deserves to have both his parents in his life. Evan is working hard to be the father Micah needs, and I support that completely. Are you seeking financial support? I'm seeking exactly what any mother would want, a partner in raising our child, someone who shows up consistently, who prioritizes Micah's needs, and who treats both of us with respect. Do you have wedding plans? Nia almost smiled at that. We have plans to continue putting our son first. Everything else is private. The questions continued for another 15 minutes, but the tone shifted. Instead of scandal hunting, the reporters seemed genuinely interested in the story of two people trying to do right by their child. When it was over, Evan and Nia walked out together, ignoring the few shouted follow-up questions from the parking lot. How do you think that went? Evan asked as they reached Nia's bus stop. Better than I expected. You did good up there. We did good. Thank you for standing with me. Thank you for not making me stand alone. They waited in comfortable silence for a few minutes. The afternoon sun was warm, and the community center looked peaceful behind them. Evan? Nia said quietly. Yeah? What you said about loving him. Did you mean that? Every word. Good, because he loves you too. He talks about you all the time now. Evan this, Evan that. Really? Really? You've become important to him. He's become everything to me. The bus arrived, but before Nia got on, she turned back to Evan. We're having dinner at Aunt Rosa's Sunday. Nothing fancy, just family dinner. If you want to come, meet his great-aunt properly. I'd like that very much. Good. 2 o'clock. And Evan, don't bring flowers or wine or anything like that. Just bring yourself. As the bus pulled away, Evan realized that for the first time since this all started, he felt hopeful about the future. Sunday dinner at Aunt Rosa's house was exactly what Evan had expected, and nothing like what he'd prepared for. The house was small but immaculate, filled with family photos and the smell of something delicious cooking on the stove. Aunt Rosa was a tiny woman with silver hair and sharp eyes who looked like she could see straight through any nonsense. She greeted Evan politely but without warmth. "So you're the one who got my girl pregnant and disappeared," she said without preamble. "Yes, ma'am, and I'm sorry for that. Sorry doesn't change what happened, but showing up might change what happens next." Micah saved Evan from having to respond by running into the room with his arms out for a hug. "Evan, look, Rosa made cookies." "Did she? That's very nice of her. You can have one, but after dinner," Micah said seriously, clearly repeating what he'd been told. Dinner was pot roast with vegetables, cornbread, and green beans cooked the way Evan's grandmother used to make them. Aunt Rosa asked him about his work, his family, his intentions regarding Nia and Micah. "What kind of father do you plan to be?" she asked, over dessert. "The kind who shows up," Evan said. "The kind who puts his son first." Easy to say. "Yes, ma'am. Harder to do. But I'm learning." "Good, because that boy doesn't need a part-time daddy who shows up when it's convenient." Micah had finished his cookie and was getting restless. "Can we play trucks, Evan?" "Sure, buddy." They moved to the living room, where Micah had an impressive collection of toy vehicles. As they built roads and raced cars, Evan could hear Nia and her aunt talking quietly in the kitchen. "He seems different than I expected," Aunt Rosa was saying. "Different how? Less entitled, more genuine, I guess." "He's trying," Nia said. "Really trying." "Good, because you deserve better than trying. You deserve someone who succeeds at being a good man." After dinner, as they prepared to leave, Aunt Rosa pulled Evan aside. "That little boy in there is the most precious thing in this family," she said quietly. "We've all made sacrifices to make sure he's safe and loved and cared for. I understand. Do you? Because if you hurt him, if you let him down, you'll have me to deal with. And I'm a lot tougher than I look." Evan met her eyes. "I won't hurt him. I promise. Promises are easy. Keeping them is hard." "Then watch me keep this one." Aunt Rosa studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. I'll be watching." 2 weeks later, Evan's routine had settled into something that felt almost normal. Tuesday and Thursday evenings at the community center, Saturday mornings at the park, Sunday dinners at Aunt Rosa's house every other week. The media attention had died down, just as Evan had predicted. One small scandal was rarely enough to sustain public interest for long. His business had survived with minimal impact. He'd lost one client, but gained 2 new ones, who appreciated his honesty about his priorities. More importantly, his relationship with Micah continued to deepen. The little boy now ran to him without hesitation, shared his toys freely, and had started asking, "Where's Evan?" when he wasn't around. And slowly, carefully, Evan and Nia were building something too. Not a romance, they were both too cautious for that, but a partnership, a friendship based on their shared commitment to their son. "He's been asking about your house," Nia mentioned, during one of their Thursday evening visits. "My house? He wants to know where you sleep, what your bedroom looks like, if you have toys there." Evan thought about his sterile apartment with its minimal furniture and lack of child-friendly anything. "I could show him sometime, if you think that would be good for him." "I think it would. He's trying to understand how all the pieces of his world fit together." "What would that look like? A visit to my place?" "Short visit, maybe an hour. I'd come too." "Obviously." "Of course." They scheduled it for the following Saturday after their usual park time. Evan spent the week child-proofing his apartment and buying a few age-appropriate books and toys. When Saturday came, Micah was fascinated by everything. The elevator ride to the 4th floor, the big windows with their view of downtown, the sparse, adult furniture. "Where are your toys?" he asked, looking around the living room. "I bought some for when you visit. They're in this basket." Micah explored the small collection, blocks, picture books, a stuffed dinosaur to keep his green one company. Then he wanted to see Evan's bedroom, his kitchen, his bathroom. "It's very clean," Nia observed. "I had a cleaning service come yesterday. Seemed important." "Not what I meant. I meant it doesn't look like anyone lives here. It looks like a hotel." Evan looked around his apartment with fresh eyes. She was right. There were no personal photos, no books lying around, no signs of hobbies or interests. Just expensive furniture and empty surfaces. "I guess I never thought about making it feel like home." "Home isn't about expensive things. It's about the people you love and the life you're building." Micah had found the dinosaur and was making it walk across Evan's coffee table, providing sound effects for its adventures. "Maybe you could help me make it more like home," Evan said quietly. "How?" "Come over sometime when we're not just visiting. Help me pick out pictures or plants or whatever makes a place feel lived in." Nia was quiet for a moment, watching Micah play. "That sounds nice," she said finally. A month later, Evan's apartment looked completely different. There were photos on the walls, pictures of Micah, candid shots from their park visits, a formal portrait of the 3 of them that Kelly had insisted on taking, plants in the windows, books on the coffee table, a basket of toys that stayed out instead of being hidden away. Most importantly, there were signs that a child visited regularly. A booster seat at the dining table, step stool in the bathroom, juice boxes in the refrigerator. "It looks like a home now," Nia said as she helped Micah wash his hands after a particularly messy snack. "It feels like one too." They'd settled into a comfortable routine. Micah spent every other Saturday afternoon at Evan's apartment. Sometimes they cooked together, simple things like pancakes or grilled cheese. Sometimes they watched movies or read books. Always, they talked. Micah had become a chatterbox around Evan, telling elaborate stories about his toys and asking endless questions about everything from airplanes to zebras. "Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why don't cars have wings? Where do clouds come from?" Evan did his best to answer, but mostly he was amazed by his son's curiosity about the world. "He's so smart," he told Nia as they cleaned up after one particularly inquisitive afternoon. "Gets it from both sides," she said with a small smile. "Definitely gets it from you. I was never that curious about anything as a kid. Maybe you just never had anyone who encouraged your questions. It was a kind way of saying what they both knew, that Evan's upbringing had been about success and achievement, rather than wonder and discovery. I want to be better than that for him. You already are. The crisis came on a Tuesday in October. Evan was at work when his phone rang, Nia calling in the middle of the day, which never happened unless something was wrong. Micah's sick, she said without preamble. High fever, won't eat, throwing up. I'm taking him to the emergency room. I'll meet you there. You don't have to. Nia, I'll meet you there. Evan left work immediately, cancelling 2 meetings without explanation. He found Nia in the pediatric emergency waiting room, holding a listless Micah who looked smaller than usual. How is he? Fever's 103. They're running tests to see what's causing it. Evan sat beside them. Micah looked up at him with glassy eyes. Evan, he said weakly, I don't feel good. I know, buddy. The doctors are going to help you feel better. For the next 4 hours, they waited. Blood tests, urine tests, chest x-rays. Micah was a trooper through most of it, but he was clearly miserable. Finally, a doctor emerged with results. Looks like a bad case of flu. His white count is elevated, but not dangerously so. We'll give him some fluids and anti-nausea medication, then you can take him home. How long until he's better? Nia asked. 3 to 5 days for the fever to break. Another week or so before he's completely back to normal. As they prepared to leave the hospital, Micah in Evan's arms because he was too tired to walk, Nia looked exhausted. I need to call in sick tomorrow, she said. And probably Thursday too. I can't leave him with Aunt Rosa when he's this sick. What about your accounting class? I'll have to miss it. Evan thought about his own schedule. Client meetings, a presentation to potential investors, a networking dinner he'd been looking forward to. What if I stayed home with him? He said. Nia stopped walking. What? Tomorrow. What if I took the day off and stayed with him so you could go to class? Evan, you don't know how to take care of a sick toddler. Then teach me. Show me what to do, and I'll do it. They stood in the hospital parking lot under the fluorescent lights, Micah dozing fitfully in Evan's arms. Are you serious? Nia asked. Dead serious. He's my son. This is what fathers do. Your work. Will survive without me for 1 day. Nia looked at Micah's flushed face, then back at Evan. Okay, but I'm leaving you a list, and my phone stays on all day. Deal. Taking care of a sick toddler was harder than Evan had imagined. Micah was cranky and clingy, wanting to be held constantly, but uncomfortable no matter how Evan positioned him. He refused food, threw up twice, and cried inconsolably for 20 minutes when his favorite stuffed animal fell behind the couch. But Evan didn't leave. He held Micah during the worst of the fever. He cleaned up messes without complaint. He read the same book 14 times because it was the only thing that seemed to comfort his son. By evening, when Nia returned from class, Micah's fever had broken slightly, and he was sleeping peacefully on the couch next to Evan. How did it go? She asked quietly. Hard, but I'm glad I was here. Really, you missed a whole day of work to hold a cranky, sick child. Best day I've had in months. Nia looked at them both, her son curled against his father's side. Evan's hand, protective on the little boy's back. Thank you, she said simply. For what? For staying. For not running when it got difficult. I told you I wouldn't run. I know. But this was the first real test of that promise. Over the next few days, they took turns caring for Micah as he recovered. Evan learned about children's medicine dosing, the importance of keeping fluids up, and how to distract a bored but still sick toddler. More importantly, he learned that real parenting wasn't about the fun moments at parks and playgrounds. It was about showing up when someone needed you, even when it was inconvenient and exhausting and thankless. By the time Micah was fully recovered, something had shifted in their family dynamic. Nia stopped asking if Evan was sure about things. She started assuming he would be there and planning accordingly. And Evan stopped feeling like a visitor in his son's life. He felt like a father. Thanksgiving came with an invitation that surprised everyone. Mom wants us to come to dinner, Evan told Nia during one of their Thursday visits. All of us, you, me, and Micah. Us? Really? She said she's been thinking about what I said after the press conference, about family being more important than reputation. Nia considered this. What do you think? I think it might be good for Micah to meet his other grandparents, but only if you're comfortable with it. Will they be comfortable with it? Kelly will be thrilled. Dad will be polite. Mom, Evan shrugged. Mom's trying. It's a start. What if they say something inappropriate or make Micah feel unwelcome? Then we leave. No discussion, no argument. We just leave. Nia talked it over with Aunt Rosa and Tasha, both of whom had strong opinions about Evan's family based on their behavior so far. But ultimately, Nia decided it was worth trying. Thanksgiving at the Hale house was awkward at first. Marla was overly polite, clearly trying hard to say the right things. Evan's father asked Micah careful questions about preschool and favorite foods. Kelly dove right in, getting on the floor to play with the toy cars she'd bought specifically for the occasion. Airplane, Micah announced, making a toy jet zoom around Kelly's hair. That's a fast airplane. Where is it flying to? To see the ducks. Ducks don't fly in airplanes, Kelly said seriously. They have their own wings. This led to a long discussion about what animals could fly and what animals couldn't, with Micah providing authoritative opinions on each one. Watching his son charmed his way into his sister's heart, Evan felt hopeful about the day. Dinner went smoothly until Marla made an offhand comment about getting to know our grandson better, and Evan's father mentioned something about helping with his education when the time comes. The possessive language made Nia stiffen slightly, but she didn't say anything until they were doing dishes after dinner. They mean well, she said quietly to Evan, but they talk about him like he's already theirs. They're just trying to be welcoming. I know, but he has a family already, people who've been taking care of him since he was born. Evan understood. His parents' tendency to assume control, to make plans without consulting others, was exactly what Nia had been afraid of. I'll talk to them, he promised. You don't have to. Yes, I do. They need to understand that you're not joining our family. We're all becoming a family together. There's a difference. The conversation with his parents was brief, but necessary. Evan explained that any future plans involving Micah needed to include Nia from the beginning, that her family's traditions and preferences mattered just as much as theirs. We're not trying to take over, Marla said defensively. I know, but you're used to being in charge. This situation requires sharing control. His mother was quiet for a moment. It's just that we've missed so much time with him. You'll have plenty of time going forward. But it has to be on terms that work for everyone, not just us. By the time they left that evening, things felt more balanced. Micah had enjoyed meeting his other grandmother and grandfather. Marla had relaxed enough to read him a story before they left. His father had offered to teach Micah about tools when he was older, if his mother thinks that's appropriate, he'd added with a glance at Nia. How was that? Evan asked as they waited for Nia's bus. Better than I expected. Your sister's wonderful. She is, and my parents are learning. Good, because he deserves grandparents who love him for who he is, not who they want him to be. Micah had fallen asleep in his stroller during the drive home, exhausted by a day of new people and new experiences. He looked peaceful and secure, surrounded by adults who were all working hard to love him well. Nia, Evan said as the bus approached, I know this is all complicated. The family stuff, the balancing act, trying to build something that works for everyone. It is complicated, but I'm grateful for it, for all of it, for the chance to be his father, for the chance to do this with you. Nia smiled. Not the careful, guarded smile she'd worn for months, but something warmer and more real. I'm grateful too, she said, for you showing up, for you staying. The bus arrived, and as Evan watched them disappear into the night, he realized that somewhere along the way, they'd become exactly what Micah needed most. A family. Not the traditional kind, not the simple kind, but the kind that worked. The kind built on commitment and consistency and love. The kind that would last. 6 months later, Micah's 3rd birthday party was held at Riverside Park on a sunny Saturday in March. The guest list was small but significant. Aunt Rosa and Tasha, Kelly and Evan's parents, David from the community center, and a few of Micah's little friends from daycare. Nia had insisted on keeping it simple, a picnic table with a homemade cake, balloons tied to the nearby trees, and a collection of outdoor toys for the children to share. Happy birthday to you, everyone sang as Micah beamed from his spot on the picnic bench. At 3, he was more verbal, more confident, and absolutely certain that the world revolved around him, as it should for any child, surrounded by so much love. Make wish, birthday boy, Aunt Rosa encouraged. Micah screwed up his face in concentration, then blew out his 3 candles with determination that scattered wax everywhere. What did you wish for? Kelly asked. Secret, Micah announced importantly, then whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. More cake. As the party wound down and children were collected by their parents, Evan found himself cleaning up with the comfortable efficiency of someone who'd done this many times before. He packed up leftover food, deflated balloons, and wiped sticky fingerprints off the picnic table. "You've gotten good at this," Nia observed, watching him organize the gift bags that hadn't been distributed. "Practice. No, it's more than that. You've gotten good at seeing what needs to be done and doing it." Evan looked around the park, at Micah chasing soap bubbles that Kelly was blowing, at his parents helping Aunt Rosa to her car, at Tasha collecting stray toys. "I've gotten good at being part of a team," he said. "Is that what we are? A team?" Evan considered the question. Over the past months, they'd navigated tantrums and fevers, birthday parties and holiday plans, bedtime routines and playdate logistics. They'd learned to communicate about everything from discipline strategies to snack preferences. They'd built something that worked. "We're a family," he said simply. Nia smiled. "Yeah, I guess we are." Micah ran over, breathless from chasing bubbles. "Evan, look." He held up a dandelion he'd picked. "For you." "Thank you, buddy. That's beautiful. It's like the fish at the center, yellow." As Evan accepted the wilted dandelion with appropriate reverence, Micah spotted something else interesting and ran off to investigate. The simple gift, a weed picked by small hands and given with 3-year-old generosity, felt more valuable than any business award Evan had ever received. "He loves you," Nia said quietly. "I love him too. More than I knew was possible." "Good, because that's what this is all about. Everything else, the complications, the judgments, the family dynamics, none of that matters compared to him being loved." Evan looked at his son, now teaching his grandfather how to blow dandelion seeds into the wind. Both generations were completely absorbed in the task, serious about the important business of making wishes. "Nia? Yeah? When I made that awful joke at the award ceremony, when I was talking about mopping up messes, I thought success meant having a clean, controlled life. No complications, no unexpected responsibilities. And now? Now I think success is being someone your child runs to when he's excited, being someone your child's mother trusts to show up. You are those things. I'm trying to be." They finished cleaning up in comfortable silence, working together with the kind of efficiency that comes from months of shared tasks. When everything was packed and everyone else had headed home, the three of them walked slowly toward the parking area. Micah walked between them, holding both their hands, chattering about his favorite birthday gifts and planning elaborate games for the toys he'd received. "Can we go see the ducks tomorrow?" he asked as they reached Nia's bus stop. "If the weather's nice," Nia promised. "And can Evan come too?" "If he wants to." "I always want to," Evan said, squeezing Micah's small hand. The bus arrived, and as they went through their familiar routine of getting Micah settled in his stroller and saying their goodbyes, Evan realized that this moment, ordinary Sunday evening, tired child, routine farewells, was exactly where he wanted to be. Not at a networking event or client meeting, not building his reputation or expanding his business. Here, with these two people who had transformed his understanding of what success actually meant. "See you Tuesday," Nia said as she maneuvered the stroller onto the bus. "See you Tuesday." Micah pressed his face to the window and waved energetically as the bus pulled away. Evan waved back until they were out of sight, then walked slowly to his car. His phone buzzed with a text from Kelly. "Great party today. I love watching you with him." Another from his mother. "Thank you for including us. Micah is lucky to have you as a father." And finally, unexpectedly, one from Aunt Rosa. "You did good today. Keep it up." Evan smiled as he put his phone away. A year ago, he'd been a successful entrepreneur with a growing business and a bright future. Today, he was a father with grass stains on his pants and cake frosting under his fingernails. It was the best trade he'd ever made. As he drove home through the quiet Sunday evening streets, Evan thought about the wish Micah had made when he blew out his birthday candles. The little boy had said it was a secret, but his whispered, "more cake," hadn't been his real wish. Evan was pretty sure he knew what his son had actually wished for. The same thing every 3-year-old wanted, whether they had the words for it or not. More of this. More family dinners and birthday parties and ordinary Tuesday evenings. More bedtime stories and playground visits and people who showed up when they said they would. More love, given freely and consistently and without conditions. It was a simple wish, and also the most important one possible, and thanks to a chance encounter at an award ceremony, a moment of recognition that changed everything, it was a wish that had already come true. The courthouse wedding was small and practical, attended only by immediate family. Micah, now 5, served as ring-bearer with the kind of intense concentration he brought to all important tasks. "Do you, Evan Michael Hale, take Nia Rose Carter?" Evan looked at the woman standing beside him, no longer the guarded single mother he'd met in that hallway 3 years ago, but his partner in every sense of the word. They'd earned this moment through consistency and trust and the daily choice to keep showing up for each other. "I do. Do you, Nia Rose Carter, take Evan Michael Hale?" "I do." When the judge pronounced them married, Micah cheered loudly enough to make everyone laugh. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was a practical beginning to the next phase of their family's journey. That evening, at the small reception in Aunt Rosa's backyard, Evan found a quiet moment to watch his son play with his cousins and grandparents. 5 years old now, confident and curious, and absolutely secure in the knowledge that he was loved by everyone around him. "No regrets?" Nia asked, coming to stand beside him. "About what?" "Any of it. The complicated way we got here, the public attention, the family dynamics." Evan thought about the question. Their path to this moment hadn't been simple or traditional. There had been mistakes and misunderstandings, public scrutiny and private fears. But every difficult step had led to this. A child who was loved by everyone in his world. A family built on foundation of commitment rather than convenience. "No regrets," he said firmly. "This is exactly where we're supposed to be." Later that night, after the guests had gone home and Micah had fallen asleep between them in their hotel bed, clutching his dinosaur and wearing his tiny bow tie, Nia turned to Evan. "What do you think he'll remember about today?" "That his parents promised to love each other the way we love him, forever and without conditions." "Good answer." They lay quietly in the dark, listening to their son's peaceful breathing, thinking about the future they were building together. Outside, the city went about its business. Inside, a family slept soundly, secure in the knowledge that they belonged to each other completely. It hadn't been the love story Evan had expected. It had been better, messier, and more complicated, but also deeper and more real than any fairy tale. They'd built it one Thursday evening at a time, one Saturday morning in the park, one bedtime story and birthday party and ordinary moment of choosing each other. It was the kind of love that lasted because it was earned daily, proved through consistency, and grounded in something bigger than romance, the shared commitment to raising a child well. And that, Evan realized as sleep finally claimed him, was the best foundation any family could have.